I let my sister-in-law use my pool every summer for her kids' parties. When I asked to borrow her tent for camping, she sneered, "Get your own damn stuff, you're pathetic." My mother-in-law laughed, "Beggars can't be choosers." My husband added, "Stop being such a mooch." I returned from my trip to find my pool drained and damaged. Her note said, "Pool parties are over, maybe this will teach you not to be such a worthless leech." I simply said nothing, but what I did next left both their faces pale. Let me start by saying I never thought I'd be writing this story. 3 months ago, I was the family pushover, the one who always said yes, always accommodated, always put everyone else's needs before my own. Today, I'm someone completely different. What happened changed not just my relationship with my husband's family, but my entire perspective on standing up for myself. My name is Elisa, and I've been married to my husband David for 8 years. We live in a beautiful suburban home with a gorgeous in-ground pool that we had installed 4 years ago. It wasn't cheap, we spent nearly $40,000 on it, including the deck, landscaping, and safety features. But it was worth every penny for the joy it brought us during those hot summer months. David's sister Cassidy has 2 kids, Daniela, 7, and Tyler, 9, and from the moment our pool was finished, she made it clear she expected full access. At first, I didn't mind. Family is family, right? The kids were adorable, and I enjoyed watching them splash around and have fun. What started as occasional weekend visits quickly became a regular summer routine. Every Saturday and Sunday from Memorial Day to Labor Day, Cassidy would show up with her kids, sometimes bringing friends, coolers full of food and plenty of attitude. She never asked permission, just assumed it was her right. She'd text me Friday nights with messages like "Pool party tomorrow at 1. Daniela's bringing 3 friends. As if my backyard was her personal country club. I tried to set boundaries gently. I'd mentioned that some weekends weren't convenient, or that David and I had plans to use the pool ourselves. Cassidy would respond with wounded looks and comments about how I was being selfish with just a pool when her kids barely got to have any fun living in their small apartment downtown. My mother-in-law Patricia always backed Cassidy up. "Elisa, you're so fortunate to have that beautiful pool," she'd say during family dinners. "The least you can do is share it with the grandchildren. It's not like you and David use it that much anyway." This wasn't true. David and I loved our quiet evening swims and weekend pool time, but correcting Patricia was like arguing with a brick wall. The situation escalated over the years. Cassidy started treating our backyard like her personal event space. She'd arrive early to set up, rearranging our outdoor furniture, using our gas grill without asking, and leaving messes that took me hours to clean up. She'd blast music, let the kids run through our house with wet feet, and help herself to drinks from our refrigerator. "It's family," David would say whenever I brought up my concerns. "She's my sister, Elisa. The kids love coming here, and it makes Mom happy to see them having fun. Don't be so uptight about it." The breaking point came this past July. David and I had been planning a camping trip to Yellowstone for months. We'd booked campsites, taken time off work, and I was incredibly excited for our first real vacation in 2 years. The only thing we needed was a tent large enough for 2 people and our gear. I remembered that Cassidy had bought a beautiful 4-person camping tent the previous summer. She'd posted pictures on Facebook of one camping trip with the kids, then never used it again. It was perfect for what we needed, and I figured she'd be happy to lend it to us since we'd been so generous with our pool for 4 years. I called Cassidy on a Tuesday evening, explaining our trip and asking if we could borrow her tent. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. "Are you serious right now?" Cassidy finally said, her voice dripping with disbelief. "What do you mean?" I asked, genuinely confused. "You're asking me to lend you my expensive camping gear? Elisa, that tent cost me $400. Do you have any idea how much responsibility that is?" I was stunned. "Cassidy, it would just be for 5 days. We take perfect care of it, and get your own damn stuff, Elisa. You're pathetic, honestly. You have this huge house, that fancy pool, and you can't even afford to buy your own camping equipment? I'm not running a rental service here." Her words hit me like a slap. "Cassidy, I just thought since we've always shared our pool with you and the kids, that's completely different," she snapped. "A pool just sits there. It's not like you're giving me anything valuable. My tent is expensive equipment that could get damaged or stolen. I can't believe you'd even ask." I tried to explain that we'd gladly buy her a replacement if anything happened, that we understood the value of the tent, but she'd already made up her mind. "The answer is no, Elisa. Maybe this will teach you to plan better and buy your own stuff instead of expecting everyone else to provide for you." I hung up feeling hurt and confused, but figured that was the end of it. David was working late, so I waited until he got home to tell him what happened. His reaction was worse than Cassidy's. "You asked Cassidy to borrow her tent?" David said, setting down his briefcase with an irritated thud. Yes, for our camping trip. I thought since she only used it once, Elisa, that's embarrassing. You can't just ask family members to lend you expensive stuff. It puts them in an awkward position. I stared at my husband in disbelief. David, your sister has been using our $40,000 pool every weekend for 3 years. How is asking to borrow a tent different? The pool is different, he said, echoing Cassidy's words exactly. It's just there anyway. You're asking her to trust you with her personal property. Our pool is our personal property too. David sighed like I was being unreasonable. Stop being such a mooch, Elisa. If you want to go camping, we'll buy our own tent. I don't want my family thinking my wife can't afford her own equipment. The next day, Patricia called me. Word had obviously traveled fast through the family grapevine. Elisa, dear, she said in that condescending tone I'd grown to hate, Cassidy told me about your little request yesterday. It wasn't a big deal, Patricia. I just thought, I think you've been taking advantage of my daughter's generosity for too long, she interrupted. Now you're asking her to provide camping equipment too? Really, dear, beggars can't be choosers. You should be grateful for everything this family has done for you instead of always asking for more. I wanted to scream. Instead, I mumbled something about understanding and hung up. That weekend, as if to prove their point, Cassidy showed up with her kids and 6 of their friends for an impromptu pool party. She didn't even text first, just appeared at our back gate with a mob of screaming children and enough pool toys to stock a store. Hope you don't mind, she said breezily as the kids cannonballed into our pool. Daniela's been telling everyone at school about your amazing pool, and they've been begging for a pool party. I minded very much, but what could I say? David was at his golf game, and I couldn't exactly kick out a bunch of 7-year-olds. I spent the day playing lifeguard to children I didn't know while Cassidy lounged in our best poolside chair, scrolling through her phone. The party lasted until after 8 p.m. The kids tracked mud through our house, left wet towels everywhere, and somehow managed to break one of our outdoor lights with a badly thrown pool noodle. Cassidy gathered her things as the sun set, calling out a casual thanks. Without offering to help clean up the disaster zone that had once been our backyard. I spent 2 hours that night cleaning up after her party, fishing pool toys out of our flower beds and scrubbing muddy footprints off our kitchen floor. When David got home, he barely glanced at the mess. Looks like the kids had fun, he said cheerfully. Cassidy texted me some cute pictures of them in the pool. I didn't bother responding. We ended up buying our own tent, a decent 4-person model that cost us $400 we hadn't budgeted for. Our Yellowstone trip was amazing, exactly the reset I needed after weeks of family drama. For 5 days, David and I hiked, explored, and remembered why we fell in love with each other. We talked about everything except his family, and I felt like myself again. I was actually in a great mood when we pulled into our driveway Thursday evening, tired but happy from our adventure. That mood lasted exactly 30 seconds. Our pool was empty. Not just low on water, completely drained. The beautiful blue bottom was exposed, and I could see immediately that something was wrong. The pool liner had several tears in it, and the expensive automatic pool cleaner we bought last year was sitting broken beside the empty deep end. I ran to the backyard in disbelief, David close behind me. Our pool furniture was scattered around the yard, some pieces overturned. One of our poolside umbrellas was snapped in half. The beautiful planters we'd positioned around the deck were knocked over, soil spilled everywhere. What the hell happened here? David said, but I was already walking toward a folded piece of paper I'd spotted tucked under a rock on our patio table. The note was written in Cassidy's distinctive handwriting. Elisa, pool parties are over. Maybe this will teach you not to be such a worthless leech. You want to use people and never give anything back? Well, now you know how it feels to have something you care about taken away. Don't bother calling me. I'm done pretending to like you. Cassidy, P.S. The pool pump accidentally got unplugged while the kids were playing. Oops. I read the note 3 times before the full meaning sank in. Cassidy had deliberately drained and damaged our pool as revenge for asking to borrow her tent. David read over my shoulder, his face growing pale. She can't have done this, he said weakly. There has to be some explanation. But there wasn't. I called our pool maintenance company the next morning, and the technician confirmed what I already knew. Someone had unplugged the filtration system, opened the main drain, and let 41,000 gallons of water flow out over the course of several days. The liner damage was consistent with the weight of pool toys and furniture being thrown into the empty deep end. This wasn't an accident, the technician told me grimly. Someone did this on purpose. You're looking at about $15,000 in repairs, maybe more. David tried calling Cassidy, but she didn't answer. He left increasingly frantic voicemails that went unreturned. Patricia, when she finally took his call, claimed to know nothing about what happened. I'm sure it was just an accident, David, she said. You know how children can be. Cassidy would never deliberately damage your pool. But I knew better. This was calculated revenge, pure and simple. For 3 days, I said nothing. I didn't call Cassidy or Patricia. I didn't post angry Facebook rants or text mutual friends about what had happened. I didn't even discuss it much with David, who seemed shell-shocked by his sister's cruelty. Instead, I started making phone calls. The first call was to my friend Rachel, who works in property management. She'd been over for pool parties in previous summers and remembered Cassidy's entitled behavior. "Elisa, I've been waiting for you to finally stand up to that woman," Rachel said when I told her what happened. "What can I do to help?" The second call was to my cousin Mike, who owns a successful landscaping business. Mike had actually done the original installation around our pool and was horrified when I described the damage. "That's criminal destruction of property," he said bluntly. "You should press charges." But I had a better idea. "See, here's what Cassidy didn't know about me. I'm not just a pushover housewife. I have a master's degree in business administration and spent 5 years working in project management before David and I decided I'd stay home to focus on some consulting work and eventual kids. I know how to plan, execute, and document everything meticulously. More importantly, I'd been documenting Cassidy's behavior for 2 years without even realizing it. Every demanding text message, every last-minute pool party announcement, every mess left behind, I had records of all of it. I'm someone who saves text messages and takes pictures of property damage, partly out of habit and partly because I'd always sensed this arrangement would eventually blow up. My plan was simple, legal, and absolutely devastating. First, I called our homeowner's insurance company. I filed a claim for the pool damage, providing the technician's report, photos of the destruction, and Cassidy's handwritten confession. Yes, confession. Her note explicitly admitting to unplugging the pool pump was evidence of intentional property damage. The insurance adjuster was fascinated by the case. "Ma'am, we see a lot of weird claims, but someone deliberately destroying a family member's pool as revenge? That's a new one." Our policy covered malicious damage by third parties, even family members. Cassidy was about to discover that her little revenge plot was going to cost her $28,000, the full cost of repairs plus our deductible and additional damages from the landscaping destruction. But I wasn't done. Remember all those weekend pool parties Cassidy had treated as her personal right? It turns out that when someone uses your property regularly for large gatherings, especially when they charge other parents for party planning services, yes, I discovered Cassidy had been charging Daniela's classmates' parents $50 each for pool party packages. That usage can be classified as commercial activity. Commercial activity on residential property without proper permits, insurance, or homeowner consent? That's a violation of city ordinances, HOA regulations, and potentially tax law. I spent a week gathering evidence. Screenshots of Cassidy's Facebook posts advertising pool parties with pricing. Venmo receipts from parents paying her for party services. Social media makes people remarkably careless about evidence. Photos of the large gatherings that exceeded our HOA's guidelines for residential events. Then I made more calls. The City Code Enforcement Office was very interested in unpermitted commercial activity in residential neighborhoods. Our HOA management company was equally concerned about violations of community standards. The state tax office wanted to know about Cassidy's unreported income from her party planning side business. I also called a lawyer. "You have an extremely strong case for property damage, trespassing, and potentially extortion," the attorney told me after reviewing my documentation. The note she left could be interpreted as intimidation tactics. I'd be happy to send a demand letter. But the most important call I made was to David's uncle Robert, who happens to be the family patriarch and a retired judge. Robert had always been kind to me, and he was not happy when I explained what had happened. "Cassidy did what?" he said, his voice incredulous. "And Patricia is supporting this behavior?" Robert had never approved of Cassidy's entitled attitude or Patricia's enabling. He'd been watching our family dynamics for years, and this incident was the final straw. "Elisa, I want you to know that what happened to you is completely unacceptable," he said firmly. "Give me a few days to make some calls." 2 weeks after we returned from camping, Cassidy called me for the first time since the pool incident. "Elisa," she said, her voice tight with panic, "I just got a bill from your insurance company for $28,000. This is a mistake, right?" "No mistake," I replied calmly. "That's the cost of repairing the damage you caused to our pool." "I didn't cause $23,000 in damage. That's insane. The insurance adjuster's report says otherwise. You admitted in writing to unplugging our pool equipment, Cassidy. The damage was extensive. But I didn't mean for all that to happen. I just wanted to teach you a lesson about using people." I almost laughed at the irony. "Well, you certainly taught me something." Cassidy's voice turned wheedling. "Elisa, be reasonable. I can't afford to pay this. I have kids to support. Can't we work something out? You should have thought about that before you deliberately destroyed our property. The call ended with Cassidy screaming threats about family loyalty and how she'd make sure everyone knew what a vindictive person I really was. 3 days later, Patricia called. Alisa, this has gone far enough, she announced without preamble. Cassidy made a mistake, but demanding that kind of money is excessive. You need to drop this insurance claim and handle this within the family. Patricia, your daughter committed a crime? She destroyed our property as revenge and left a note confessing to it. The insurance company isn't asking my opinion on whether to pursue reimbursement. But $28,000 is exactly what it costs to repair the damage she caused. If Cassidy couldn't afford the consequences, she shouldn't have committed the crime. Patricia's tone turned icy. I hope you realize you're destroying this family over money. David will never forgive you for going after his sister like this. But she was wrong about David. My husband had spent 2 weeks watching me handle the situation with calm professionalism while his family fell apart, and something had shifted in his perspective. You know what I realized? David told me that night. In 8 years of marriage, I've never once seen my family treat you with real respect. They've used you, taken advantage of your kindness, and now they're angry that there are finally consequences. The real turning point came when Robert called a family meeting. The entire extended family gathered at Robert's house on a Sunday afternoon, something that only happened for major holidays or emergencies. Cassidy arrived looking defiant, Patricia seemed nervous, and David and I sat quietly while Robert addressed the room. I've been hearing some disturbing things about recent events, Robert began, his judge voice commanding immediate attention. I want to make sure everyone understands exactly what happened and what the consequences will be. Robert had done his homework. He'd spoken to the insurance adjuster, reviewed the evidence I'd provided, and consulted with colleagues about the legal implications of Cassidy's actions. Cassidy, he said, fixing his niece with a stern look, you committed felony property damage. You caused $23,000 in damage to your brother's home as revenge for a personal slight. You left written evidence of your crime. In my courtroom, this would be an open and shut case. Cassidy tried to interrupt, but Robert held up a hand. You also operated an unlicensed business on David and Alisa's property without their knowledge or consent, violating city ordinances and potentially committing tax fraud. Alisa has evidence of your commercial activity spanning 3 years. The room was completely silent. Patricia, Robert continued, your enabling of this behavior and your attempts to pressure Alisa into dropping legitimate legal claims could be considered intimidation. I'm disappointed in both of you. Robert turned to address the entire family. Alisa has been generous to a fault for years. She opened her home to us, provided entertainment for the children, and asked for nothing in return except basic respect. Instead of showing gratitude, some of you treated her kindness as weakness and her generosity as obligation. Cassidy's face was pale, but she wasn't done fighting. This is ridiculous. It's just family drama, not some criminal case. $23,000 in property damage is not family drama, Robert replied coldly. It's a crime. Alisa would be within her rights to press criminal charges in addition to the civil reimbursement. That's when I spoke up for the first time. I'm not interested in sending Cassidy to jail, I said quietly. But I am done being treated like a doormat by people who should respect me as family. I looked directly at Cassidy. You have 30 days to arrange payment for the insurance claim. If you can't pay the full amount, we can discuss a payment plan. But the debt will be paid. Cassidy started to object, but I continued. Additionally, you're no longer welcome on our property. Ever. The pool parties are over, just like you wanted. You can't ban me from family gatherings. Cassidy protested. I can, and I am banning you from our home, I replied. David can visit you anywhere else, but you've proven you can't be trusted to respect our property. Patricia was furious. Alisa, this is extreme. She's family. Family members don't deliberately destroy each other's property and leave threatening notes, I said. Cassidy made her choice when she decided revenge was more important than relationship. The meeting ended with most of the family in stunned silence. Robert made it clear that anyone who continued to harass me about the situation would find themselves unwelcome at future family gatherings that he hosted. Over the following weeks, the consequences of Cassidy's actions continued to unfold. The city fined her $1,200 for operating a business without proper permits. The HOA issued a cease and desist order and threatened to fine us if commercial activities continued on our property, something I gladly forwarded to Cassidy. The state tax office opened an investigation into her unreported income. Most importantly, the family dynamics shifted permanently. David's brother Mark, who had been neutral in family conflicts, reached out to apologize for his wife Patricia's behavior and to express support for our position. Several cousins who had witnessed Cassidy's entitled behavior over the years privately told us they were glad someone had finally stood up to her. Robert hosted a family barbecue at his house and made a point of publicly thanking me for all the years of gracious hospitality I provided to the family. The message was clear: Robert was taking sides, and his side carried a lot of weight in family politics. Cassidy, meanwhile, was scrambling to manage the financial and legal consequences of her revenge plot. She had to take out a loan to pay the insurance claim, and the stress of the situation led to several explosive family arguments where she demanded that everyone support her against me. Most family members refused to get involved. A few tried to play peacemaker, suggesting we should move past this for the sake of family unity, but Robert shut down those efforts quickly. Actions have consequences, he told anyone who suggested we should just forgive and forget. Cassidy chose to commit a crime against her brother's wife. The consequences are entirely her responsibility. The most satisfying moment came 6 weeks after the pool incident. Cassidy called David, not me, crying and begging him to convince me to drop all this legal stuff. "I've lost friends over this," she sobbed into the phone. "People are saying I'm crazy. I might lose my apartment because of the loan payments. This is ruining my life." David, who had been listening to his sister's manipulation tactics for 30 years, was unmoved. "Cassidy, you drained and damaged our pool because Elisa asked to borrow a tent. You wrote a note calling her worthless and promising that pool parties were over. You got exactly what you wanted. But I was angry. I didn't think it would cost this much." "That's not Elisa's problem," David replied. "You made your choice. Now you get to live with it." The conversation ended with Cassidy hanging up on her brother, but not before she delivered one final threat: "Fine. But don't expect me to ever speak to either of you again." "Promise?" David asked, but she'd already disconnected. 3 months later, our pool is fully repaired and more beautiful than ever. The new liner is gorgeous, and we upgraded several features with the insurance payout. David and I spend most evenings swimming together, enjoying the peace and quiet of our own backyard. We've hosted exactly one pool party since the repairs, a small gathering for Robert's birthday, where family members who had always treated me with respect got to enjoy our hospitality one more time. Cassidy wasn't invited. The financial consequences of her revenge plot are ongoing. The loan she took out to pay our insurance claim will take her 3 years to repay. The city fines and legal costs added several thousand more to her debt. The stress led to problems at her part-time job, and she's had to move to a smaller apartment. But the social consequences have been even more significant. Word of the pool incident spread through the extended family and Cassidy's social circle. People who had attended her backyard pool parties learned that she'd been charging them to use someone else's property without permission, then destroyed that property in a fit of rage. Her reputation in the community is ruined. Parents who had hired her for party planning services have asked for refunds. Her children's friends' parents are wary of playdates. Even Patricia has become more subdued in family settings, embarrassed by her daughter's behavior and the public drama that followed. Meanwhile, I've gained a reputation as someone who won't be pushed around. Family members who had previously treated me as a convenient pushover now approach me with genuine respect. I get sincere thank you notes when I host family dinners. People ask permission before assuming they can use our facilities. Most importantly, David finally sees his family dynamics clearly. He's set boundaries with his mother and sister that should have been established years ago. He supports my decisions without question and has apologized repeatedly for not standing up for me sooner. "I always thought keeping the peace was more important than anything else," he told me recently. "I didn't realize that keeping the peace was just code for letting them walk all over you." The camping tent that started this whole drama? We still have it, and we've used it on 3 more camping trips. It's become a symbol of our independence from family expectations, a reminder that we don't need anyone's permission to live our lives on our own terms. But the story doesn't end there. About 4 months after the pool incident, I received an unexpected phone call from Daniela, Cassidy's 7-year-old daughter. "Aunt Elisa?" her small voice said through the phone. "Mommy said I'm not allowed to call you, but I miss swimming in your pool. Why can't we come over anymore?" My heart broke. These children had become collateral damage in their mother's war against me, and they didn't understand why their favorite summer activity had suddenly disappeared. "Daniela, sweetheart," I said carefully, "your mom and I had a disagreement, and she decided you couldn't come to our house anymore. But I promised we'd be good. Tyler and I wouldn't make any messes." I had to explain to a 7-year-old that sometimes adults make choices that hurt everyone around them, and that this situation wasn't her fault. After I hung up, I cried for an hour. The next day, I did something that surprised even myself. I called Patricia. "I want to take Daniela and Tyler to the community pool this weekend," I told her. "Cassidy doesn't have to be involved, but those kids shouldn't suffer because of their mother's choices." Patricia was quiet for a long moment. "Cassidy won't like that." Cassidy forfeited her right to control this situation when she destroyed our property. But I'm not going to punish innocent children for their mother's behavior. That Saturday, I picked up Daniela and Tyler and took them to the public pool complex across town. We spent 4 hours swimming, playing pool games, and eating ice cream. The kids were ecstatic to have their pool day back, even if it wasn't in our backyard. When I dropped them off, Cassidy was waiting on the porch, her face stormy with rage. "How dare you go behind my back?" she screamed as the kids ran inside. "You have no right to take my children anywhere." "Actually, Patricia gave me permission," I replied calmly. "And unlike some people, I don't punish children for their parents' mistakes. This is kidnapping. I could call the police." "Go ahead. Call them and explain how taking your children swimming with their grandmother's permission constitutes kidnapping. I'm sure they'll be fascinated by your logic." Cassidy slammed the door, but not before I heard Daniela's voice from inside. "Mommy, Aunt Elisa took us to the big pool. It was so fun." I continued taking the kids swimming every other weekend. Cassidy couldn't stop me without causing a scene that would make her look even worse to the family. Patricia, who had initially tried to stay neutral, began openly supporting these outings. "Those children deserve to have fun," she told Cassidy during one particularly heated family argument. "Elisa is being kinder to them than you are." The swimming trips became a symbol of how completely the family dynamics had shifted. I was no longer the pushover who could be bullied into silence. Instead, I was the adult who put children's well-being above petty grudges. Even more satisfying was watching Cassidy's attempts to rebuild her social standing fail spectacularly. She tried hosting pool parties at the community pool, advertising them on social media as exclusive summer events. But public pools don't allow commercial activities, and she was asked to leave after other parents complained about her trying to charge admission fees. She attempted to start a party planning business using other venues, but word of the pool incident had spread through her social network. Parents who had trusted her with their children's celebrations were no longer interested in her services. The final blow to Cassidy's reputation came when she tried to throw Daniela's 8th birthday party at a local recreation center. She'd booked the facility and sent invitations, but apparently hadn't learned her lesson about financial planning. When several parents arrived with their children, they found Cassidy arguing with the facility manager about a bounced payment. The party was canceled in front of 24 children and their parents. Daniela cried, Tyler was embarrassed, and the story spread through the school community within hours. That's when Patricia finally called Cassidy and delivered an ultimatum I never expected to hear. "You need to apologize to Elisa and make things right with this family," Patricia told her daughter. "Your pride has cost you your reputation, your financial stability, and now it's hurting your children. Enough is enough." But Cassidy's response was predictable: "I'll never apologize to that woman. She destroyed my life." "You destroyed your own life the day you decided revenge was more important than family." The conversation marked the final fracture in Cassidy's relationship with her own mother. Patricia began openly supporting David and me in family situations, often making pointed comments about the importance of treating family members with respect. Sometimes I wonder if I should feel guilty about how thoroughly Cassidy's revenge plot backfired on her. Then I remember the note she left, calling me a worthless leech and promising to teach me a lesson about using people. She was right about teaching me a lesson, just not the one she intended. She taught me that being kind doesn't mean being weak. She taught me that family relationships require mutual respect to function. Most importantly, she taught me that sometimes the best way to handle a bully is to let them face the natural consequences of their own actions. I didn't destroy Cassidy's life, she did that herself when she chose revenge over relationship. I simply refused to protect her from the results of her choices. The pool parties are indeed over, just like Cassidy wanted. But instead of teaching me a lesson about being a leech, she learned a much more expensive lesson about the cost of burning bridges. Our backyard is peaceful now. Our pool sparkles in the summer sun. And every evening when David and I swim together in the quiet water, I'm reminded that sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be a victim. Cassidy wanted to teach me not to be such a worthless leech. Instead, I learned that I'm worth standing up for, and that lesson was priceless.